Hello, this is Bob Amdur with the PRO Editors Podcast. The topic of this podcast is automated treatment planning. In the past 10 years, the literature and vendor meetings have been flooded with reports of advances in all kinds of automated treatment planning approaches. Many use deformable registration, machine learning, and other sophisticated approaches with the goal of replacing the need for real people with specialized expertise. Clearly, the technology is progressing, but the reality is that today, most of us still spend a lot of time contouring, and most of our practices employ dosimetrists and physicists to customize almost every treatment plan. I think of automated treatment planning as three categories with increasing complexity. At the most basic level, I'd like a process that contours normal structures accurately. Next on my wish list would be a process that contours targets correctly. And then most sophisticated would be an automated inverse planning process that produces a high-quality dosimetry plan that I want to approve. If we had an automated planning system that did all of these things well and was cost-effective, there'd be major benefits, but there would also be some negatives. The benefits would be decreased time, energy, and cost, as well as the potential to get better quality plans in many situations. These benefits would be huge in rural communities or in any part of the world where practices don't have the resources to buy software and employ dosimetrists and a physicist to a degree needed for optimal results. The potential downside of a successful automated planning program is that it could decrease the need for dosimetrists and physicists, which could contribute to unemployment in wealthy countries. In the May 2021 issue of PRO, meaning issue 3 of volume 11, starting on page 177, there's an article that describes what I think will be a landmark program to bring automated treatment planning into routine clinical use. The title of the article is Clinical Acceptability of Automated Radiation Treatment Planning for Head and Neck Cancer Using the Radiation Planning Assistant. The first author is Dr. Olin Rawahu from MD Anderson, and the corresponding author is Beth Beadle from Stanford. The work described in the paper is a collaboration between multiple departments around the world and several private companies that make radiation oncology treatment planning systems. The name of the automated planning program in this study is called the Radiation Planning Assistant, abbreviated RPA. The program is administered by MD Anderson at website rpa.mdanderson.org. This program is currently still in the development phase, meaning it's not available for commercial use. But as you can see from the website, the program is highly developed and being used in study mode by many departments around the world. The PRO paper describes a study of how well the RPA program works for complex head and neck cases, but subscribers are currently evaluating it for multiple other sites. Basically, here's how the RPA works. CT simulation is performed at the local site. The treating physician at the local site contours gross tumor volumes and defines the dose prescription, with the option to have up to 3 target volume prescription areas. The local site then sends the image set with GTV contours to the RPA via web-based portal. The RPA auto-contours all applicable normal structures and clinical target volumes, and then sends the fully contoured image set back to the local site. The treating physician reviews the contours and edits them as needed. The RPA then uses the approved contours to generate a VMAT plan based on standardized goals for target coverage, dose heterogeneity, and normal tissue limits. The plan is based on treatment of PTVs, which the system creates with isotropic expansions based on predetermined values for each body site. For example, the PTV expansion for the head and neck cases in this study was 3 millimeters. The RPA-generated VMAT autoplan is imported into the local treatment planning system, and local users have the option to make minor edits to the plan, such as changes in normalization. The dosimetry planning process takes about 30 minutes, and the system has the capacity to generate 6 plans an hour for an annual capacity of about 50,000 plans a year. To test the RPA, the authors performed the following study for head and neck cancer cases. The study cohort was 50 separate head and neck cancer cases treated by head and neck specialists at a tertiary care cancer center with VMAT RT. The primary sites included oropharynx, oral cavity, larynx, hypopharynx, and nasopharynx. Most were primary RT cases, but a few were post-op. For each case, there were 2 dosimetry plans, an auto plan from the RPA and a manual plan that had previously been approved and treated. They called the manual previously approved plans clinical plans. The main part of the study was to have plans evaluated in a blinded fashion by 14 radiation oncologists that specialize in head and neck cancer and who are not affiliated in any way with the RPA project. In addition to not being involved with the RPA program, the 14 evaluators were from different institutions throughout the U.S. The 14 evaluators were required to comment on the clinical acceptability and preferability of both the auto and clinical plans, and to judge whether they would approve one or both plans for each case scenario. Again, the evaluators were blinded as to how the plans were generated. The results of the blinded evaluations are as follows. First, the great majority of the auto plans were judged to be approvable without any edits, specifically 88% of the plans. Second, when asked to choose which plan they prefer to approve, almost half the reviewers, 47%, selected the auto plan, and 25% said that both plans were equivalent. This means the auto plan was judged to be preferred or equivalent in 72% of cases. Third, very important is that there was no plan, auto or clinical, that a reviewer said was unacceptable. So from these results, the authors conclude that, number one, the RPA auto plan system consistently created clinically acceptable plans that meet DVH criteria. Conclusion number two, in 12% of the test cases, reviewers preferred a plan that had been generated by the manual process. Since auto planning with an RPA takes only half an hour, the time lost in attempting the auto plan is small, and the auto plan still has value because it provides normal structure contours that could be used to expedite a manual plan. As I said previously, this RPA program is still not approved for generalized commercial use, but it's close, and my prediction is that it will soon be something that transforms radiation therapy planning in developed countries, and I won't be surprised if departments at all resource levels end up using it to some degree. So the future for auto planning is exciting and will continue to develop. I'm sure we'll hear a lot of it in our meetings and in our journals. I hope this summary was useful to you. That's the end of this podcast.